Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes. It's about to go down, just like the Jets always go down in defeat. Welcome to our AFC East preview. The sounds in your ear, Sports Reports is ordered. Mr. Logical, 2-5. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things. Do all the good things. Liquid death in hand. Do not bring feelings to fact fights.
Don't do it.
Check out Say Less, Say More. We are everywhere you get your podcast. Let's get right to it. So, Mr. Logical, what up, Mike? Up in the building early. I see you, fam. All right. So, Mr. Logical, you know, it's another year. Another year that these damn Bills didn't win the Super Bowl. Another year that these damn Bills didn't get to the Super Bowl. So, 5 years they've won the AFC East until last year. Sean McDermott, you know, I've had a funny feeling about him throughout the course of this tenure where I felt like he wasn't going to get them over the hump. Sometimes I feel like that. Yeah, sometimes I think you just got to cut bait. But anyway, they finally let him go. They got Joe Brady, who was the offensive coordinator. He's now the youngest head coach in the NFL. Now, what do we even think and expect from the Bills this year?
We expect them to get 4 easy wins in division, toss up with New England, and I think for some reason I hate Super Bowl or bust. The math doesn't work out. It's 32 teams vying for it. A lot of things have to go your way. It's an oblong-shaped ball, has to bounce the right way, fumble, interception, whatever the case may be. So I don't like saying Super Bowl or bust. But I think the expectation is Super Bowl, and I'm not sure if it's fair or reasonable considering like how many first-year head coaches, you know, win the Super Bowl. It's not common. How many guys go through this many iterations of a team and keep the same quarterback, and then all of a sudden they get these. It just seems like a lot of things would have to fall in place in order for them to just skate to the Super Bowl. You know, a lot of AFC teams have really solid defenses. And Buffalo's kind of known to have a bad regular season loss and then great first round playoff game, bad second round play. Like there's always something that kind of cripples this franchise. So, yeah, I wouldn't say Super Bowl or bust, but I'm pretty sure that's the expectation.
So I think that for me, at least, you know, saying Buffalo is due a pass that I don't want to give them, you know, because they've been at this for years now. Like I said, they've won the East 5 out of 6 years. You know, they've played Kansas City quite a few times in the playoffs and just came up short, to include Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff game of his career. You know, there's always just that moment in the game, whether it was the Stephon Diggs drop pass, the tush push that didn't work with Josh Allen. There's just always something that seems to make them snake bitten. Now, with the new head coach, I have to kind of give them a pass because of these new items that you're talking about. Like, their defense isn't going to be nearly as good as we've known it to be at times. You know, they did get DJ Moore, so that's going to be positive for them. But when I think about the Buffalo Bills, I think that they've been fortunate. You know what I mean? Like, Josh Allen's been healthy. You know, James Cook led the league in rushing last year. So at some point, not that the wheels have to fall off, but they have to come back down to earth just a bit. And the problem with me trying to give them that pass is that whenever you turn on your TVs on Sundays, you're going to hear about how Josh Allen parted the Red Sea. You know what I mean? You're going to hear about how, you know, Josh Allen is the MVP in week 1 or something along those lines. But let's take it somewhere else. Let's talk about the Patriots for a second because they did win the division. You know, so one, you know, saying, is this a potential dynasty coming back to glory? You know, two, you know,
It's hard to replicate.
Well, last season you always talked about how New England got lucky with the last place schedule, or like the lower schedule, you know, and I'm like, well, for the most part, they played most of the same teams that Buffalo played, but Buffalo lost to Miami and Atlanta.
And
you know
Atlanta,
what I mean? So
yeah.
that's kind of the difference right there that gave the Patriots, you know, the number 2 seed in the division title. You know, Mike Vrabel had an interesting offseason. You know, he didn't necessarily get a lot of
Didn't
the flack
affect him
that
at all.
Diana
No one's
received.
even
Yeah,
talking about it. I damn
yeah.
near forgot about it till you just brought it up. So I don't think that's don't distract them. They got another weapon in for uh, Drake May to throw the ball to.
Well, they
The
got a couple
difference is,
weapons.
and the difference with Buffalo and New England, like you said, Buffalo won the division 5 out of the last 6 years, and the 1 year they didn't win it, that team represented the AFC in the Super Bowl. But how that happened, I am still not sure what the call was that made that Denver play an interception. I granted I didn't like look into the minutia of the rules. I'm just looking like how how was that a pick? Because we seen it against Buffalo earlier where it wasn't a pick. It was like a Buffalo New England game where it wasn't called an interception. It was called a completion. It was like in I think their second matchup they had. So that happens, which is, I mean, literally the epitome of a bang bang play. And then at the end of the playoff game, Bo Nix breaks his ankle. And like I don't know what play it was on, but he still was out. Like he walked off the field. So it was like he broke his ankle and then like they had to like battle back and make the like so when he was taking a knee and he limped off. So that gave New England an opportunity to play. Granted, they're playing on the road, but they're playing against a backup. A guy that was probably I think he had a short stint in New England, but I don't think there was much tape on him. And if it wasn't for the backwards fumble, no call, review, ball to New England at the 10-yard line, and even then they struggle to get the ball in. So it just you need the ball to bounce your way more often
Well,
than
you know
not.
what? You saying that just made me think of something else. You know, because that Denver game that you're talking about with Buffalo went into overtime. You remember the end of the first half? Where all they had to do was run out the clock and get to halftime, and Josh Allen had one of the worst fumbles that a superstar can have in a big moment in a game that didn't even need to be a big moment. What up, Rez? Didn't even need to be a big moment. You know what I mean? That's the type of stuff that I'm talking about. And Josh Allen, you know, beat himself up talking about how he let his team down. And I'm like, no, man. Like, how many times has Josh Allen led Buffalo to, say, 28 to 30 points? And they lose the playoff game. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, you can blame yourself because I'm the guy that says the game is 60 minutes. A lot of people focus on this is what happened in the fourth quarter. This is what determined the game. No, that Josh Allen fumble at halftime or right before halftime might have cost Buffalo that game just as much as any play that happened in that fourth quarter. Now, the New York Jets. What are the Jets? I'll tell you what the Jets are. The Jets are the team with the longest playoff drought in United States professional sports right now. They haven't made the playoffs in 15 years. Even the Buffalo Sabres made the playoffs last year that actually, you know, broke the tie. You know, the Jets are an interesting case, you know, because last year I was a little high on the Jets, you know, and then it just turned out that I was high. But, you know, but as you look at the Jets, you would have to imagine that Geno Smith is a little bit better than Justin Fields, because when you look at Vegas, it was just a shit show. Whether it was Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, Geno, there's a lot of blame to go all around that even though I'm not the biggest Geno Smith guy, I don't want to just dump it at his feet and say like he fell off because just a year prior, he was killing it in Seattle. He didn't fall off that badly over the course of 4 or 5 months of off season. Maybe a decline, yes, but all the way to where he fell to, I don't think so.
Decision making, like the decision to go to the Raiders. That's probably like the worst decision he made all year. Apart from how he played, the team's just they're not structured properly, they're not organized properly. They have an owner that meddles. Jerry Jones meddles in all Cowboys business, but they went. But like, I would have held out. I'm like, nah. I would have told my agent, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm not going to a team.
Geno Smith ain't good enough to hold out.
Listen, I don't care. I would have played for the Argonauts in Montreal or Toronto, whoever they are, before you go to the Raiders.
Toronto. So Montreal are my Alouettes. Let's get it right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think equally as bad, not because he's somewhat familiar with the Jets, but you also have to remember, like, you didn't have a great run with the Jets, and they haven't really improved in the areas that they were poor at when you were there.
Yeah, and there's pieces of his jaw ingrained into the floor in the locker room.
Oh yeah, he did get mollywopped in the locker room. Yes, pretty. So, like I said, the Jets are. Last year they didn't have an interception defensively.
Mm-hmm. First team ever.
I imagine that can't happen again, considering teams are going to be thrown on them because they're just going to be running up the score. Something's got to get tipped, and somebody has to play over top and get a pick here and now. But I don't really have. I think Breece Hall just got injured as well. Yeah, so I don't really have a lot of faith in the Jets winning. They might pull out a 3-14, maybe a 4-13. Like if the final week is wrapped up and New England's resting their starters, or somebody just has a real bad day in the rain and they get a couple of scooping scores, because they had Dallas on, like, I'm gonna say Dallas on the ropes, but they were holding Dallas pretty content, but they couldn't move the ball. Like Justin Fields couldn't move the ball at all. And I was getting a lot of Jets games. I'm just watching these numbers.
You live in Jersey.
But it was like, but you could get the Eagles game or you get like a Jets game. But the Eagles playing so many primetime games, I was getting a lot of Jet games on my local TV, and it's like, I just watched it a lot. You just saying that just so week 12 when he doing all right, you be like, see, I told you. But if he was terrible, you're like, well, Geno never really been that good. It's just playing both sides of the coin. I got you, Mike. I see you.
Hey, remember when Nas told Nature, like, I believe in you. You got to believe in yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's Geno Smith. You know what I'm saying? He got to believe in himself. Because anything that you saying right now, Mike, Geno don't even believe that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, but down in South Beach, new head coach in town, Jeff Hafley. He came over from being the defensive coordinator in Green Bay, brought Malik Willis with him, and I don't know what to expect from the Dolphins. So like when I initially thought about this a couple of days ago, when I was like, hey, we got to sit down and preview the AFC East. I thought to myself, could the Jets be the worst? I mean, the Dolphins be the worst team in the league? And yeah, it's on the table. But I think the Jets. I mean, they one and the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, that's because you just being pro-black, Mike. That's all that is. You know what I'm saying? You Black Panther in the quarterbacks.
He's like, I'm rooting for everybody black. Wakanda forever.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You out here with the throwback holy ass Donovan McNabb jersey. You know what I'm saying? But
I hate with a dashiki on.
but I think that Miami actually does have talent. They have talent just about everywhere. They just don't have enough. Like, they just don't have top tier talent outside of Achane. Everybody else that they have, I mean, they got a couple of good players on defense, but I just don't know if they have enough. to make up the gap in this division because for all intents and purposes, barring injury, this is a 2-team division. And one of these other 2 teams, I think if the Jets can get something that resembles a pass rush, I think the Jets could be one of those teams that clips a team or 2. I think that the Jets could potentially, with health, Garrett Wilson, Omar Cooper, A.D. Mitchell, hopefully another year of development. Like, I think the Jets could be one of those teams that's on the brink of the playoff line around week 12 or so, since you brought up week 12. Like, they could be 5-6, 6-5, just kind of in that range, but they just don't have enough to go forward. You know what I'm saying? And I don't believe in Aaron Glenn.
You talking about the Miami Dolphins?
No, I'm talking about the Jets.
You got
the Jets
with 5 wins before week 10.
I don't see why not. Like, so going back to last year, right? Saying they're and we'll get into this as we get deeper into their preview, but their problem last year was they just couldn't score, which put the defense in bad positions. But now they've upgraded their team, whether that's through the draft, whether that's through some free agents that they brought in, like Demario Davis, for example, to kind of lead that linebacker room. David Bailey with the number 2 draft pick, has been looking good during preseason. You got their defensive backs still need some work. But, on offense, like I mentioned, the receivers, you got Kenyon Sadiq, out of Oregon to pair with Mason Taylor. So they're in that Chicago Bear frame of we have 2 very good tight ends that you have to account for. So I think that the Jets, I'm not saying that the Jets are going to be a good team or, anything like that. I'm just saying that after last year, there's nowhere to go but up. And, they upgraded at quarterback, however small that upgrade might be. And, you know what I mean? So I think that they definitely, oh yeah, you see, he's talking big now. Breece Hall going to lead the league in rushing, huh? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I hope you're right. I like Breece Hall, but, I don't know. I don't know.
He would have to be on a 2007 Adrian Peterson type of run because there's not a receiver in the room that requires a double team just because Garrett Wilson's going to be your number 1 read. But I think just there's no threat anywhere else.
Ooh,
so if you're not handing the ball off and getting good runs, getting averaging, we'll say 4.2 yards a carry. Like if you're not a real threat in the run game, you're definitely not going to be a threat in the passing game. Geno isn't a guy that he's not a force multiplier. Like I think he's a good quarterback. I think being an NFL starting quarterback is probably one of the toughest jobs ever. I talked about it the other day. It was like the drop off between the starting quarterback in the NFL and the backup is drastic. The second tight end after the starting tight end is not that much of a difference. The guard, all these other positions, you can okay, this guy can fill in and do his thing. The safety that comes in for a couple plays, he can read the field. That second string quarterback, it's like night and day. It's like JV freshman quarterback trying to start varsity on a national team. It's so drastically different. I don't think Geno gives you that much more than what you probably would get out of Cade Coupland.
But I think that with a guy like Justin Fields, right? Like Woody Johnson, like the owner of the team, literally at a point last year said the statement, quote, like, if we could just throw the ball, you know what I mean? That would be a good look because they couldn't complete passes. And
he had some pedestrian numbers. I think
he did.
He had some 3 for 11 games for 14 yards. He had some crazy games. I was like, yo, bro, what are you doing?
Like, I'm not even trying to be that guy. I'm not even trying to be that guy where I'm being super hyperbolic or being super disrespectful. But why ain't nobody moved this man to receiver yet? That's all I want to know. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Back to the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins have talent. Like they have Chop Robinson. They have a good linebacking core. I like their draft pick, Chris Johnson at corner. They got some young receivers that could be good down the road. but they're probably 2 years away from really being a good team. So I'll step back a little bit because I was thinking of them as the worst team in the league. And I know preseason ain't much to, I'm not supposed to look into preseason, but Arizona looked wild out here half the time, and when I look at
Miami
Tennessee,
didn't look great either.
I had high hopes for Tennessee, and Cam Ward, but the more and more I see Cam Ward, I'm like, this might be another long year. So, so when I'm looking at it from that standpoint, there's teams that I think in the AFC, to the point that we're talking about, you can eliminate some teams from the playoffs before we even kick the ball off. You know what I mean? Like the Raiders ain't making the playoffs. That's the Browns ain't making the playoffs, even though I know Mike got them winning the division. But they ain't making the playoffs. I don't know about the Steelers. I'll put them on the line. I'm not sure about Jacksonville right now. You know what I mean? So there's teams that there's enough room. Like Jacksonville won 12 or 13 games last year. That's not happening this year. So that's another team that's coming back towards the Jets, if you will. So, they're not going to be as bad as the Jets, but I'm just saying they're going to probably be lumped in. But let's get to it. So the Patriots, Drake May, second in MVP voting last year. So you know what they said? They said, you know what, Drake? We got to go get you some toys. So Stephon Diggs is over in Landover, Maryland. They went out and got A.J. Brown, to Mr. Logical's point, but the slept-on pickup is they went and got Romeo Doubs as well. So they got a guy who can pick up slack if A.J. Brown is dropping passes or is just having an off game or whatever the case may be. Now, I was shocked that they traded Keyshawn Butte yesterday. I understand it on some level, but I was still shocked because, he was probably their most reliable, receiver last year. So, it just.
But he wasn't a big play guy, and he probably wasn't small enough for the slot.
Right, I can see that.
He just, I think maybe there's the versatility. I don't know if we can use him everywhere we need to use him.
They still got Hunter Henry, old reliable, But then it gets a little interesting because when we go back, because you got to start to some degree at the end. So what doomed the Patriots last year? Because they did make the Super Bowl, right? He went to the Texans, Rez. So you think about it, how it ended. Well, Drake May broke the record for sacks in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? He spent half his nights looking at the lights, if you will, bars. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? The Patriots punted more than any team in NFL history in the playoffs last season. But their defense was good enough. But they lost Chason to Washington. So, is there going to be some slippage there? They have probably the best, at least I'll call it a top 3 secondary in the league. When I look at Christian Gonzalez, who might be the next best corner after Surtain in my mind. Marcus Jones, Carlton Davis ain't half bad. And then they went and got Kevin Byard, the guy that caused all the havoc in Chicago's secondary last year. So New England solidified their back end. Now on the offensive line, since we were talking about those sacks, go Utes. They drafted Caleb Lemieux, at the end of the first round. They went and got Vera Tucker, who previously played for the Jets. But the problem with him is, as good as he is, he hasn't played a full season in 4 years. So now you got to rely on Will Campbell taking that step in year 2. His arms ain't getting no bigger or longer, if you will. So, so from that standpoint, pass rush could still be an issue, as far as getting home on the Patriots. Travion Henderson got hurt today. So I walked in here prepared to pick the Patriots to win the division, but now I got to see what that injury looks like. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I don't believe in Ramondre Stevenson over the course of a full season. He did a lot better not fumbling the ball last year, but the Patriots got questions. You know what I mean? Now, I think they have more answers than they do questions. They went and got Draymond Jones and drafted Gabe Jackas, last year. So the Patriots are in a good position. The problem is
they have less questions than other teams.
And they have the best coach in the division now. You know, like you could make an argument last year that McDermott might have been slightly better or at least equivalent to Vrabel. I still think Vrabel's better.
I think Vrabel was a better fit, so I think that makes him better. I think he fit what New England needed, so I think by proxy that made him a better coach because it's like the record's one thing, but you saw what he did with Tannehill, you saw what he did in Tennessee, and then you saw what he did as a player in New England, and he seems to embody that. It still baffles me to this day why the team down in Georgia didn't hire him, but you know, it's neither here nor there. But with New England, like you have to talk, you know, pros and cons because we're having a conversation discussing like, you know, how the outlook for the season is. But I think they have less holes to fill, and I think they did a better job of fixing like the glaring position they have with, like I said, we saw it in the playoffs where if you can't get the ball out to playmakers and you're a young athletic quarterback, you definitely don't want to make a mistake because we see guys tighten up in the playoffs where you don't want to have that 2 and 3 interception game like some of these young quarterbacks famously had recently. So you play a little tight and you rely on the defense. Very early Tom Brady was the same way. It was like we seen all the Super Bowls at the New England Patriots back in the day. I think they only scored in the first quarter, maybe one. 2 of those 9 Super Bowls they went to with Tom Brady, they just always been a methodical team, and especially in the playoffs, they slow it down. So I like I said, I like what they did. I like going out getting AJ Brown, especially a guy who looking for a fresh start. He has a lot of respect for Mike Vrabel. I think he plays hard. And as far as the defense, I think having a defensive head coach who played in that environment, granted, it might be a different system, but I'm pretty sure it's similar to what Bill Belichick had taught them growing up, you know. So I think the defense travels. You got better on offense. Like you say, you got an injury and you're running back today. So hopefully that doesn't keep them out. But I think they have everything they need to roll the ball out there and compete to win back-to-back AFC East championships.
Yeah, and Mike, that's what I was getting at with the Kayshon Boutte trade. You know, I think that, you know, that frees up Pop Douglas. You know, I think that frees up Matt Collins. I think that gives Kyle Williams a chance, you know, to show what he can do because I liked him coming out of college as well. So the Patriots are fine there, you know, on defense in that, you know, in the middle there. You know, Robert
AJ Brown getting 10 targets a game. Y'all talking about throwing those other people. That dude getting 10 targets a game.
We'll see. I don't know about that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, defense is going to take that away if it's that effective. But what I would think of is when I was talking about the Rams and the Cardinals the other day, when we did the NFC West, I was talking about how both of those teams are probably going to play a lot of 13 personnel. And I think that the Patriots, you know, provided that Travion can come back, you know, they can put teams in trouble, you know, where, you know, you come out in a heavy formation and AJ's the only receiver that you know that's out there really. You know what I mean? Or like him and Dobbs on the other side, and then you have Henderson and you got to have somebody chasing him, you know, on the flats.
You have to match up size for size because if you don't match up size-wise, then they'll just run stretch play, and now you have 2 tight ends coming downhill. Like if you can't sit in nickel hoping that you can just cover AJ Brown in that situation.
Right.
So because New England will run it right at you.
And that's why I think the Patriots are still dangerous. You know, I think that, you know, because I was going to ask you if they were a fluke. That was the way I was going to word it. But I don't think that they are just because of the coach that they have. Like, I think that he's good enough to keep them on task. But, you know, looking at the schedule here, Mr. Logical, you know what I mean? We get our Super Bowl rematch, you know, out in the Pacific Northwest to start the season. Sunday night football as it should be. You know, then they host Pittsburgh, you know, I'm sorry, that's on a Wednesday, actually. That's the opening game, sorry. And then you got your 11 days off, you know, until Pittsburgh. Go to Jacksonville and Buffalo back-to-back. So now That's where it gets interesting because you get Buffalo so early. Remember last year they played Buffalo pretty late in the season to where they were able to get kind of their feet under themselves, if you will, and they pulled off that upset on Sunday Night Football. So first 4 games here, what you thinking?
At Seattle, Super Bowl banner, the 12 is going crazy. First game of the season, traveling cross country. I think that's all things considered. I'm gonna go home field advantage. Seattle wins that one. I'm gonna go Pittsburgh victory, Jacksonville win. First game at Buffalo. Buffalo's trying to exact some kind of revenge. I got Buffalo starting the season off pretty well, so I got them 2-2 after the Buffalo game. I mean that's a tough 4-game stretch for a team that just came
I
out of the
agree,
Super
Mike.
Bowl.
I think that Seahawks game is going to be like a 17-13 special. You know what I mean? Where it's going to matter who makes the play or who makes the mistake, if you will.
Well, it depends on who's playing loose. If you're New England, do you come in with the idea to spoil the banner raising?
You have
Or
to because you're the ones that gave them the banner.
Yeah, if you're Seattle, you're like, yo, we've seen this before. It was just 7 months ago. Like I was talking to my son yesterday about his football team. He was like, he looked at their schedule. He was like, I think there were like 3 or 4 teams they play. He's like, I think we're their homecoming game. He was like, we're gonna ruin their homecoming. So he already has it in his mind that when we go down to this high school, we're gonna ruin their homecoming. So if New England comes in with that mindset and they play the way they play, because like I was talking about the big, the philosophy of Bill Belichick. I'm looking at the size of some of these linebackers. They average around like 230, 235. Other teams have probably run out their NFL linebackers that can also play nickel, 215, 220. New England's like, nah, man, I need to do that's 250 that's going to play in the middle. I need big backs. And I think if you can stymie the run game because they don't have Kenneth Walker III in Seattle anymore. Sam Darnold, we talked about his numbers. Charbonnet's out. So that could be a recipe for that. But I'm just going to go with, if I got to flip a coin, I got to get advantage somewhere. I'm going to get advantage to the hype of the Super Bowl banner, home game, Wednesday night, national, like that whole scene. So I figured I'm going to go with Seattle in that one.
Okay. So after that Buffalo game, they get the Raiders and the Jets. So I'm assuming that you got those as wins,
Correct.
Especially at Foxborough. They go to, your new favorite team, the Hammond Bears.
The Indiana Bears.
Before they go to South
have a little
Beach.
bit. I got a little faith in the Bears. But not this one. I think New England gets some
Thursday night football, those road teams.
Yeah, but I gotta see the Bears because I still think they have that. Remember how we talked about Kansas City a few years ago? Like they felt like they could just turn it on late because they were winning so many games late, and it felt like they somewhat relied on that. I just don't want Chicago to kind of get in that. Like I said, they could be frauds, or it could carry over. They still have all the pieces they need. I think the coach and the quarterback and the offensive weaponry match what the coach wants to do. So I think that's that's game planning that's easy for him. Like if you are a coach that likes to get a quarterback on the edge and throw deep passes to speedy wide receivers out of slot or hybrid tight ends, you have that in Chicago. That's how Ben Johnson likes to coach. That's like how he likes to call plays. So I think they have everything they need to offensively, maximize that. Just defensively, you got to figure out, can you replace all those turnovers? But I think just the steadiness of New England, Thursday night, once again, primetime game. I like that matchup versus I like the head coach matchup there. I just think that Vrabel's going to be a little bit more level-headed, play it smart on the road early in the season. So, yeah.
So they get Green Bay and Detroit back-to-back, But, they're both at home at least. So, you figure they should at the very least be able to split. At least at the very least, potentially beat Green Bay, maybe lose to Detroit. Bye week, week 11. So, pretty nice bye week there to kind of get ready for the final stretch, if you will. Then they go to LA off the bye, Buffalo back to back, at home. Then they go with Minnesota at home, Thursday night football. I think that's December. Thursday night
Another
football.
one.
Then they go to Arrowhead, Monday night football before going to Jersey. Then they get Denver and Miami. And this is the thing, right? That Kansas City game might be crucial because that'll be more than enough time for Mahomes to get his feet wet and get back into the groove of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm saying? Mike turning on Mike don't roll with Caleb, what I'm saying? Like, what I'm saying? He's doing that thing, what I'm saying? It's the light skin thing.
Yeah, he don't like the Madden cover.
What I'm saying? But that is a tough 4 games, But that Denver game, being at home, could be a toss up, but I think you like having it at home. So like I keep hearing people talk about how tough the Patriots schedule is. And I don't necessarily think it's as tough as advertised because a lot of these tougher games are at home. Like, because they're going to go to Buffalo anyway in division. But you don't fear going on the road the other 2 teams in that division. They get Green Bay and Detroit, but you get them at home. You go to the Chargers.
They have some tough. They have a few teams that pundits and people will probably betting on to be the division winners. So you got Seattle, obviously, it's a tough road game, but that's the Super Bowl rematch. This comes heavy as they head to wear the crown. You got at Jacksonville, which is probably a team that someone's picking out of AFC South that's not Houston. They have, they got their franchise quarterback. They have a lot of weapons. They seem to have found their coach quarterback combination. So they could be a scary team.
I think their season.
I think they have, Chicago is going to be a division winner potentially. So I think they do have a bit of a tough schedule. It's just the way it's sandwiched. Like if they could have got Seattle, then the Raiders, then Jacksonville, then Pittsburgh,
then Buffalo,
and then so it's like I think if they could have spaced out, then maybe slid in, like see how they got the Jets, Chicago, Miami. I think that's a nice little break. You don't have to worry about going back to back.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think their schedule is 2 4-game. I think their schedule is 2 4-game schedules. That week 1 through 4 that you're talking about, and then as we get towards the end of the season, or not, the end, but like when you get to that, I'll call it
2-2 there and 3-1 the other way. Then the rest of these games are pretty much given. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So all right. So and just for the record, just in case you're wondering, I guess I was the fraud the whole time because the Patriots circled the wagons just like the Buffalo Bills.
I was waiting on that. I thought you were going to start the show off with that.
Yo, could you imagine, though, like to get to the Super Bowl if New England would have beat Kansas City? Like, could you just imagine being in Buffalo or like just
watching
Drake
that May
on TV? Yeah.
beat Kansas City 13-10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all couldn't do that? Yeah. It's and crazy. Once again, I think the monkey on the back is tough. We talk about Steve Young, legendary Hall of Fame quarterback, has one Super Bowl win. And he literally had someone snatch the monkey off his back in that Super Bowl that they were highly favored in. I mean, so it's like it just the way it's talked about, like it's this kind of formality because you're talented, you should win a Super Bowl. Nah, you're talented, you should be making winning plays week in and week out. You shouldn't be Justin Herbert and the reason your team's losing in the playoffs when you're a talented quarterback. I don't think Josh Allen's the reason his team's losing in the playoffs. It's just unfortunate that it just hasn't worked out yet.
Yeah. So before Sean McDermott, the Buffalo Bills went 17 straight years without making the playoffs. So I don't want to be disrespectful.
Shout out to Andy Dalton.
In his 9 seasons, they got there 8 times. The problem with Buffalo, in my estimation, when I think about it, is that they've missed a lot more in the draft than they've hit. Yeah, you got your Josh Allen, you got your James Cook, but like, what's the status of Keon Coleman right now? And not even saying that like he's missed. That's fine, Mike. Quarterbacks have turnovers. That's a part of the game. Brett Favre had all the turnovers too.
Turnovers happen, and like I said,
but if I score 30 points, I should win, regardless of interception. I should win. Like, that's the way I look at it, and that was always my problem.
If you threw 4 picks and lost 30-10, then that's on you. But if you threw 2 and the final score is 33-30, it's like, I think he made up for those 2 picks by getting you guys to get 30 points. Yeah.
Well, you talked about Stafford the other night in the Super Bowl. He played like shit in that Super Bowl for the most part. You know what I mean? But he had a chance to win the game through, touchdown to Cooper Kupp, all that, like, because the defense made plays. So, you know what I mean? Like, I think we get too focused. And I had this conversation last night, well, and most of today too, because Instagram's still mad at me for suggesting that Dennis Rodman could have won a Finals MVP. But it's the same concept. Like, when we look at basketball, we look at scoring, you know what I mean, and as the end-all be-all. And then when we look at football, we look at quarterbacks as the end-all be-all. The reason Dak doesn't get that grace is because the Cowboys fall on their face and as a team, and he's the quarterback. That's the thing with the quarterback. You're either going to get all the credit or you're going to get all the blame. Also, we got to listen to Cowboy fans for 746 days a year telling us how it's their year. So, you know what I mean? And then tell us that Dak is the best quarterback in the league and Dak is like the next Tom Brady and all these crazy things that, I mean, they don't say that literally, but the Cowboys just talk a lot of hyperbole. You know what I'm saying? And so when it comes to Dak, it's not that people shit on Dak. They just talk trash to Cowboy fans. Like, that's just what it is. And we know that when we talk shit to Cowboy fans, Dak is the way to get under the skin. Well, Dak is the way to get under the skin. Like, you don't care if I come in here talking about Kenny Clark or if I talk about Diggs or, whatever the case may be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, but the thing is, Mike, is that Dallas is like that every single year. Like, Dallas could literally go 5-12, and they would start the offseason talking about, oh, yeah, we only went 5-12 because our running back had a separated shoulder, or like, oh, it was because our DB, like, it's always something, but we're going to win the Super Bowl this year, and then you don't. So Buffalo, so to your point, and that's funny because the next line on my notes here is that in these playoff games that McDermott lost, Buffalo's given up 33, 32, 27 twice, 42, and 38. That's the last 6 Buffalo postseason losses. You know what I mean? That's why, when you get to a certain point in the season and the thing that you're known for is something that you can't rely on, that's a problem. On top of that, in my mind, and I know McDermott has beaten Kansas City in the regular season. He's beaten good teams. But he has a lot of, when I look at him, I see a lot of James Franklin, where you get to these big games, these moments happen, and it's like, you know what? On this, let's go, like, just make this one play and the game is yours, and I'm going to punt it from, like the 45 or something like that to play field position. And, and that resonates with the team,
They get out of their game plan. It's like some teams can rely.
How many turnovers Lamar Jackson had in the playoffs? You don't want to talk about that, do you?
Because he's black. No. So it happens. Like, you can have everybody makes mistakes. It's going to be blown assignments. It's going to be missed blocks. It's a football game. You're playing against the other top professionals in the world at what they do as well. So it's not like you're playing a different level. It's not like, oh, we take the best NFL team and you play against a world football team. Like, no, you're playing against equal talent. So mistakes are going to happen. These guys are going to make plays too. The problem comes in is like where Cook was killing Kansas City all game long on any kind of draw play or anything to the edge. He was killing that. The holes were gigantic. And then, like you said, Mike, yeah, if they just would have given it to him. So when it looks like the coach is calling for plays, so Josh will keep it simple. We'll rely on our all-star MVP, all-pro quarterback to make the play. It's like, yeah, but you have 5 offensive linemen, you run 2 tight ends, and you have one of the leading rushers. I think that year Cook was he led the league in touchdowns, I believe. Or he was somewhere like 16
last year he
18.
led the league in rushing, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the Kansas City year,
21 yards, yeah.
Yeah, the Kansas City year, he was getting touchdowns, so he was making plays happen, and you just went with it felt like there was no other voice in the headset saying, "Yo, James been killing him all day."
Yo.
Just hit that draw play and pop in, because that 4th and 1 when they did the tush push, just give it to the running back.
So if you'll indulge me for a second, you know what I'm saying?
You.
I remember when my Seminoles used to be good. And, we had Danny Cannell at quarterback, Work Done in the backfield. And we would just direct snap the ball to Work Done, you know what I mean, and go get 8 yards. Like, Buffalo could go to the Super Bowl if they just direct snap.
Yo, I was playing a guy in Madden. I was playing a guy in Madden last night, and I threw the ball to Bijan Robinson in the flat because he was playing goal line defense. And in my headset, he was like, he's the only guy scoring touchdowns. He's the only guy you get a ball to. I'm like, dummy, the name of the game is get the ball to your playmakers in space. If he's wide open in the flat, why do I have to throw it to some other digital person to prove something to you? Like, that's pointless. So if I can keep getting the ball to my playmaker in space, I'm going to keep giving it to him. I think in the playoffs, coaches get tight, but it's that they can't let that happen this year. And I think with a new coach who used to be there, and he's been there. I think he was there for the 13-second game. I believe he was in the booth then. Like I said, I would have squibbed it, but that's something you got to consider because I think after that game, I talked to my dad. He was like, man, you squibbed that ball. Best case scenario, they run it back. This is old kickoff rules. They run it back for 4 or 5 seconds, and they get to the 40.
Back at that, so it's not even.
Best case scenario. Even if they try to flip it back to someone, that's a couple of seconds. And then, but no one said, no, we're just going to kick it deep and then play defense. So on hindsight's 2020, but everyone was saying, just squib it. You run off 4 seconds as soon as they touch the ball if you squib it.
Yeah, so Pete Carmichael is in as the offensive coordinator, so we'll see how that goes. Is that going to be just a year there to coach, but Joe Brady's actually going to be calling the plays? He spent a lot of time in New Orleans. He was most recently with Denver. On defense, I was shocked, that they got Jim Leonard as defensive coordinator. Now, the only problem with this, because I like Jim Leonard, but the only problem with this is he's a 3-4 kind of guy. So now, we have to see if certain guys can, I guess, play standing up, like Greg Rousseau and Michael Hoyt. If they can actually play from a stand-up position versus just bull rushing or, playing on the edge. On top of that,
3-4 is very versatile defense.
I love it. The secondary, is still a question mark for me. Christian Benford is a very good player, but I don't know how much else they got back there. They went and got C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Max Hairston came in off of injury last year. He was a rookie with high hope, but he looked like a fish out of water, if you will. Then you got Cole Bishop as the other safety. So from that standpoint, Cole Bishop could be a name that you're hearing by the end of the season. People talking about him. But in Buffalo news, as tradition, I should say, they went and got the injured guy again. First last year they went and got Joey Bosa. That was their big pickup. Like, hey, we're going to rehabilitate his career. He's gone, and now they go get Bradley Chubb, who's, probably injured less often than Bosa is, but probably had a more catastrophic injury, that he's coming back from, still trying to adjust from. So, I don't know. Can they stop the run? They ranked 30th in yards per carry for opponents last year, so people were running the ball down Buffalo's throat. I don't think they've done anything to address that. You know what I'm saying? Think about this. Mr. Logical will
Schematics can
tell
help
you.
that too.
Well, Mr. Logical will tell you, B. John himself ran for 210 yards against Buffalo in that Monday night game that we keep referencing. Achan ran for 197 against Buffalo last year. You know what I mean? And oh, by the way, a game Buffalo lost. A game that Buffalo lost. David Edwards is a big loss on the O-line for Buffalo. So the way that DJ Moore fits in here, I think you get to see the best of DJ Moore because of Josh Allen's arm. I think that he opens it up for everybody else because, like, Shakir is more of the – I don't want to call him a gadget guy because he's not, but he's more of that catch short, make you miss, get some yak kind of guy. But that's tough to do when you don't have a fear of either going over the top or that intermediate passing
But
game.
Josh can get him that ball, and I think that's the beauty part of their offense. I think every player, I think the two tight ends that they have, and they brought another guy, Jackson Hawes. I think when Josh Allen, because Josh Allen's always looking to make a throw downfield, and when the tight ends run the way they do, they're going to be hard to be covered by linebackers. So you're going to have to cover them with safeties. So that means if you do get Josh Allen in space, he might be one-on-one with the linebacker in space. And, he's a pretty shifty guy for as big as he is. And then on top of that, Shakir is one of the guys that just gets open for him. Guys like certain quarterbacks just have their guy, like McConkey in LA. Like you can have all these big targets. You have the big tight ends, but when it boils down to it, it's 3rd and 7. This guy's gonna get open. And I think Shakir is one of those guys where it's like you can put him in motion, get him those quick flare passes, get him in space, but then also having DJ Moore, who's like, he wants smoke. So Josh was like, listen, I know it's two guys over there, but so is DJ. So go get it. And I think he'll be able to let it fly.
And not just that, Keon Coleman, we'll see what his status is, but he at least has size, if nothing else. Then you have Josh Palmer, who gets to play a more natural position because Buffalo was kind of forced at times last year to kind of try to force feed him because of what was going on with the rest of the offense. So now Josh Palmer gets to kind of play that support role like he played in LA, where he's the third down deep ball guy that if you blink, he'll go over the top of your head. But if I'm trying to
turn the wrong way, look at number 2.
Yeah.
5 is on the right past you. Yeah.
That's not his game. They also have a guy that I really, really like, a rookie. He reminds me, he's not as skilled, so I'm not doing it, but he reminds me a little bit of Stephon Diggs as far as his route running ability. But Skylar Bell out of UConn. I think in a few years that guy, is going to be a premier receiver. But we'll see how it works out for now. So, of course, Buffalo just needs to run the ball in Drake May style. Josh Allen took a career-high 40 sacks last year, 40 sacks. So that's where I was talking about, well, for the most, they've been relatively healthy on that side of the ball. You know what I mean? Like a lot of their injury issues have been their big defensive players that they were relying on, like guys like Milano and people like that were missing a lot of games. But they've been very fortunate offensively, as far as how many games Josh Allen has not missed. So let's do this here. They're coming down my way, Mr. Logical, week 1, to go see the Texans. And the Texans seem to be one of those teams that they have Buffalo's number for whatever reason. A couple of years ago, that was the game that Mr. Logical brings up where Josh Allen banged his head on the ground and they gave him the salt, and then all of a sudden he just
out.
Yeah,
and
then
HD
I think
was out.
His last game against Houston, he went like 9 for 30 or something like that. So, like, Houston, for whatever reason, like, D'Amico Ryans just knows Josh Allen really well. But as you look at this, Mr. Logical, if you wanted to, Buffalo could start 0-2 here.
No.
They could start 0-2.
I like Detroit. When they were like a true two-headed monster at running back.
Hey, they could go 1-4, really. I guess 2-3.
I mean, they're playing 5 playoff teams essentially. Yeah, because everyone in teams made the playoffs last year. But fuck, I mean, 14 teams make the playoffs. So
Detroit didn't make the playoffs, but yeah.
Oh, Detroit didn't make it, but they have playoff talent.
But they missed it by a game or something. Yeah,
So that's a good stretch. Those are gonna be those games where it's gonna be like either it's gonna be toss ups with Vegas or it's gonna be plus 1.5 because they're at home. But they get 3 of them
up for this Rams game though. Remember the last time they played the Rams? Josh Allen with the 6 touchdowns, and oh yeah, that was one of the games of the year.
Yeah, that was a game that defensive coordinators put on. Said, listen, we're not gonna do any of this. Any of this stuff that they call either side of the ball. We're gonna watch this and make sure we don't do any of this. Yeah, so Tough got 5 games, 3 of them being at home is viable. Then you got the whole LA to New York flight.
Yeah. So I got them 3-3 after those first 6.
Up into the bye week.
Yeah, I got them 3-3. I think they lose to Houston. I think they lose to Detroit, and they lose to the Rams.
I got 5-1 with a loss at the Rams.
Woo!
I just got to see CJ Stroud stand in the pocket and deliver. And once again, he lost a wide receiver to injury. It seems to
they got Butte.
But once again, Butte's new into the offense. He just got him the game in 2 weeks. How many practices do they really have into where they can build a rhythm between now and that Thursday? The Thursday is probably gonna be their last practice. So best case scenario, you got 2 weeks from today to really lock in with this new guy that just came in, considering like you had problems like locking in the new guys when the other guys would go down. So, and it's not CJ Stroud's fault. It's just rhythm and timing. So I think that early on, I believe Buffalo gets them.
All right. Detroit, so what you think coming out the bye week?
Coming out the bye week, like I lost to Baltimore just because Baltimore seems to be able to get up for these regular season games sometimes. And they just Lamar just goes crazy.
Well, remember the opener last year, that big lead the Ravens blew.
Yeah, but that was such an anomaly. Derrick Henry hadn't fumbled since Obama was president, and all of a sudden he fumbled 2 times in the same quarter. It was such an anomaly that is like something that I don't think I would repeat. Minnesota, I still got to see. I guess Kyler Murray admitted that he couldn't see over the offensive line of some of the plays. That's going to be tough to overcome. I'm not sure the vibe is going to be legit in Minnesota because if it doesn't start off great, it's going to be a lot of people with microphones in the face of your backup quarterback, and that's never a good time for an NFL team to where the press is sticking their microphones in the face of the backup. Cleveland, you'll get your explanation later, but that's what's going to happen if they don't start off well in Minnesota. Obviously, the Jets, I think I know they're going to give up a silly loss. So if I had to guess, the at Minnesota game would be the game they lose 27-24. But I'm still going to pick it to win.
But look at that week 12 through 16.
Kansas City, we got to see if they can get their pieces to work. And that's always a tough game. At New England, I'm going to give New England that game because it's at home. Like I said, if it's even, I just go with the simple. I'll give it to the home team, especially if they're physically competitive.
Lambeau. Micah Parsons will be back by then.
Micah should be back by December. And he was a wrecking ball. But is Jordan Love in a good groove, or is he a turnover machine weeks 10 through 14 like he has been sporadically throughout his career? Chicago at home, swirling winds in Buffalo. That's why I hope they're not. I think they're building a dome. I hope they don't.
They are. Yep.
Like, you're not getting a Super Bowl in Buffalo. You don't have enough hotel rooms. So, like, you're not getting a Super Bowl in Buffalo. So, building a dome it's a waste of your home field advantage.
So, I know Buffalo is obviously a cold weather team. But I still think that going to Lambeau and Mile High within 2 weeks of each other is kind of crazy work. And it's actually less than 2 weeks. And then you get Caleb Williams in the middle of that. So, like they play Denver on Christmas.
As long as they practice outside.
And they're all like short week games, like 3 short week games in a row.
Yeah, so that's the Buffalo. So we got Kansas City, New England. I got those back to back. I got Green Bay, Chicago's back to back wins, and then at Denver's a loss.
So going back to what I was talking about earlier, like people are giving the Patriots the tough schedule tag. I think Buffalo's the one with the tough schedule. You know what I mean? Or at least like they're even, or not that far from one another.
How we talked about New England, you said they have 2 4-game seasons built into their 17-game schedule. I think the first 5 for Buffalo and that 12 through 16. So they have 2 5-game stretches that are tougher than New England's 2 4-game stretches.
Right. And you know what I'm saying? And you still got Baltimore on the schedule.
The Baltimore squeezed in there.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like if they didn't have Josh Allen, I think people would feel a lot less about Buffalo than they do. So of course the Jetropolitans, you know what I'm saying? Mr. Logical's always amazed at, how I jump through the hoops for the Jets. So, back to the numbers, of course, they didn't win a division game last year. Not a one. Correct. They went 0-6 in division. We talked about not having interceptions, as a team last year, which is kind of crazy, you know what I'm saying? Especially, I agree, Mike, they might not. Especially when, Aaron Glenn, he has 34 interceptions just as a Jets player. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't even get one, So I think, Mr. Logical, the Pittsburgh game last year, opening week, set the tone for the season. Remember, that was a back-and-forth game. Justin Fields was looking damn good, I have to admit. It was, I think, if I remember correctly, the final score was 34-32. And, there was a late field goal by Pittsburgh that won that game. So from there, they ended up losing by 2 to Tampa. They lost by 6 to Miami, 2 to Denver. That was the game you were talking about where Justin Fields went 3 for 11. I believe that was an overseas game. They lost that game 13-11. They lost by 7 to Carolina. So they scored less than 13 points 8 different times. So you remember a few years ago, the talk about the Broncos was when they had Nathaniel Hackett. Like, if they had just scored...
If they scored 17 points.
They would have been like 9-1 or something along those lines. I ain't going to say the Jets would have been 9-1, but the Jets would have been a lot better if they had just scored 17 points. You know what I mean? So that's first and foremost. And like I made, and I talked about the owner, if we could just complete a pass, that would be good. That's your owner on national TV pleading for you to do your job. You know what I mean? Like, so Geno Smith has to be a little bit better than that. So he led the league in picks last year. He did. But like I said, the Raiders were a mess last year, so I'm not blaming him per that. I'm just going to call that a bad year. I'll just call it a bad year. He should have better protection. They got Olu Fashanu and Amon Mebu, who were their last 2 draft picks, so 2024 and 2025 on the offensive line. This is where I get a little, as Stephen A. would say, Mr. Logical, this is where I got cause to pause. Because they brought in Frank Reich as the offensive coordinator. That's where I'm kind of like, okay. And I like Frank Reich for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to run that duo run screen. There's going to be a lot of zone run. And so I think that, on top of Breece Hall, because I know, we were talking about how he's banged up. They still have Braylon Allen as well, who can break some tackles and cause some havoc. Breece still got 1,000 yards last year, even with all the stuff that we're talking about with their offense last year, right? You know what I'm saying? So now, my question is, who's going to be the Jets' backup? You know what I mean? They got Cade Klubnik that they drafted this year, Brady Cook, who's left over from last year, my guy, Bailey Zappi. You know what I mean? So I don't know what the Jets are going to do for backup. And God, they better hope to God that they don't need their backup at any point this year, or else all this that I'm saying right now goes right out the window. Garrett Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, hopefully he can finally get it together. So just looking at the Jets on a wide-eye view, you don't think that there's any chance they could be a decent team?
No, because there's not a group on the field that you go into a game and is a definitive advantage, that group versus your opponent's group. I don't think their defensive line gives you a distinct advantage over any offensive line that they would play. I don't think their secondary can swarm.
I disagree with that.
I think there's a lot of names.
Devondre Sweat, you got McDonald. What's my guy's name? David Bailey that they just drafted. Darrell Jackson Jr. Like
if your corners are letting people get open in 2.5 seconds, the defensive line is basically neutralized. I just don't feel. I don't know where they're ultimately dynamic anywhere. I don't think they're dynamic offensively. I think Frank Wright isn't going to be creative enough to get them in position. Like I said, I live here. You talk to Jet fans, they'll say the same thing.
I think their problem was from the middle back. Like, I think the defensive line is fine. I think they needed like linebacker help, which they went and got with DeMario Davis. Of course, the thing with that is he's 37 years old, but he's still a leader. He's still a good player. So they got that taken care of. As far as the secondary go, Brandon, stop trying to steal my points, Mike. I'm about to get there. You know what I'm saying? Brandon Stevens might be the worst corner that I've seen start multiple games in my life. You know what I mean?
What about St. Juice? Is he worse than St. Juice?
Yes, he's worse than St. Juice.
But that's what I mean.
I'm trying to be. Hold on.
What's their identity?
They brought in Nashawn Wright from Chicago. They went out and got Mika Fitzpatrick, who, if nothing else, is a playmaker. Now they just need somebody else to step up, whether that's Azariah Thomas. I'm only mentioning him because he went to Florida State. But, but can you get something out of him? Because I don't think that the Jets don't need elite lockdown defensive talent. They just need to be a little bit better than because like I said, this last year, as bad as they were, they still had Tampa on the ropes. They had Denver on the ropes, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So it's not like, hey, you know what? They had Denver on the ropes. Like, well, maybe they had Denver's number. Well, no, because they went out here and challenged this team and that team. They beat Cincinnati. So, like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, the Jets.
But we were surprised. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's nothing.
Of course we were.
That's what I'm saying. If Buffalo beats the Chargers, or if the Chargers beat the Bills in Orchard Park, we're not going to be surprised because there's things that we can point to in the Chargers that are winning components.
I will be surprised if the Chargers win in Orchard Park just because they're the Chargers.
Just because of the Chargers, but if you look at like defensively, they have good defensive players. The defensive line, Khalil Mack. They have good linebacker play. You got Derwin James as safety. You have Quentin Johnson. If you can hold on to the ball, he's a dynamic wide receiver. You got the pass catching tight end. You have the good running backs. You got the quarterback with the big arm. You have an elite coach. You have a offensive former head coach and Mike McDaniel calling play. So you have pieces that said, okay, if the Chargers went into Buffalo and won, you'd be like, okay, I can see how they won that game 27-20. If the Jets go and win a game 28-17, you'd be like, how many fumbles did they scoop and score on? You're not gonna be like, Geno must have really sliced some people up.
But that is a part of it, right? Because like when we were talking
about, they don't force turnovers. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but hold on. But that's just like when we were talking about the Bears the other day, right? It was a lot of what the Bears did last year. was predicated on getting those turnovers. That's one of those things that can change over year to year because it's such a variance thing.
But after the turnover, Caleb Williams consistently made, even though the play was
right,
off
and now
schedule,
the Bears don't have those players that caused the turnovers.
But I'm saying he still consistently made those off-schedule plays. So even with the turnovers,
he didn't. He made plays late in the game. We talked about it the other day about how you're down. No, but I'm talking about. But you also can't rely on that. You can't sit there every week and go, let's be down 24-13, and then all of a sudden let the magic happen. You can't live like that.
I understand that you can't live that way, but like I said, when you look at the Bears, you knew week in and week out that was a possibility. I'm not sure what you could look at the Jets and say, hey, I think every single week they'll be at an advantage here that's going to tip the scales in their favor.
Okay, so how about this? Let me do it for you.
I think they have to play. They have to play like a perfect. It was like the Falcons. Like the Falcons. Like I said, as a Falcons fan, we had the talent. We had guys that would turn the ball over, but it was like we couldn't get down 10 points because there was no fight. There was no deep threat. Quick score, like touchdowns to score. Like if you're down 10 points, if Atlanta's down 10, 13 points in the fourth with 7 minutes left, there wasn't a player that like, boom, we can get the ball to this guy and he can make something big happen immediately. Or the quarterback can make something big happen immediately. With the Jets, is like, all right, we'll see with Dallas when they're 5-12 this year. So with the Jets that's the same piece. Is like I like them. I think they play tough, but when it comes down to it, one side of the ball always seems to let the team down. There's no real side of the ball you can rely on week to week.
Well, no, that's absolutely fair. But what I'm saying though is that looking at this real quick, I'm not picking games right now. We're just having a conversation. But so like their defensive line should be able to push around Tennessee in week 1.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I talked about how Cam Ward looks in preseason. The Green Bay Packers didn't win a game once Micah got hurt last year. You know what I mean? And they lost Romeo Doubs. They lost Dontavian Wicks. We don't know Josh Jacobs' status. And they don't necessarily have running backs behind him that inspire confidence. And when we talked about them, they're a collection of good players that don't have anybody that stand out. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Jets beat them. You know what I mean? Now, beating Detroit is going to be a tall task.
Yeah, you can bank on Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur having a game plan that can be executed by both parties. The coach is going to stay on course. I think the quarterback will.
And you know what? And when Micah Parsons got hurt last year, if we were on this show and I told you, hey, the Packers are about to lose their last 5 games, you would say, I'm sure Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love could get you one.
Yeah, of course. I'm just erring on the side of like just.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I get that it didn't happen, obviously, but I can trust it.
They could.
No, they got the win. They got the win over Baltimore. Micah didn't play that game.
I think that was before, because they were 9-3-1, and then they lost out. Because remember, they lost to Chicago with the division on the line, and then they played them again in the playoffs the next week.
I swore because Malik Willis played that game. I didn't remember Micah Parsons playing. You're probably right because you're the stats guy, but I thought. But you wouldn't have picked them to lose 3-4 games, 5 games in a row either. It shit happens. It's just
because I
don't understand. I just don't understand I think the Jets have good pieces. I think, like you mentioned, Michael Parsons, Demario Davis. They brought in, but Micah Fitzpatrick, Demario Davis, and Geno Smith. Those guys are like 35, 37, and probably 31.
Yeah. So Micah got hurt in the Denver game. They were 9-3-1. He got hurt in the Denver game. They lost that. They lost the game to Chicago in overtime. They lost to Baltimore by 17. They got beat 16-3 by Minnesota, and then they lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Bears.
Okay.
Yeah,
so they had a
to
bad
Mike's
run.
point, they lost Rashawn Gary and Quay Walker too. But then on top of that, you know, you got the Browns on the schedule. At the very least, you should expect to, I would say, at least split with the Dolphins. You
If
know what I
I
mean?
give
Like, you don't
you, I
feel like
give
the Raiders
you,
are better than you.
no, yeah, I give them the home win against Miami at home. I think they lose in Miami just because road games. I'll give you Tennessee just because I think the Tennessee offense is just pedestrian. I think Robert Sala once again picked a bad job. Uh, but Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, maybe Cleveland, just because I'm not sure if Deshaun Watson's heart's in it, and I'm not sure what their record's going to look like by that game, and how many questions Shador Sanders and Deion Sanders and Shiloh Sanders are going to have to answer about Deshaun Watson. So
I
I
think
think the locker room could be split. I think the fan base would definitely be split. So I think that could be a game where
I think they
you
could be
lose that
4
game to
and
the
4.
Jets, you bench Deshaun. So like I think that could be a
I
big
think
game.
I think they could be 4 and 4, and then it just falls. It just hits the fan. You
Yeah,
know what I
because they
mean?
got the Miami and the Vegas back to
Because
back. So that gives me
because
4-4 for them.
because after that, you know, after that Miami game, or I'm sorry, after the Raider game, they go to Arrowhead, they get Buffalo, go to LA, go to Miami, then get into the bye week and get Denver coming out. They very well could lose all those games.
Arizona might be their reprieve week. Looks like week 14.
Yeah, Mike is about these Browns, man. The Browns gonna win the North, man. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I remember I
Anything
feel
is
like you said
possible.
that I feel like you said the Saints were gonna win the South last year too.
It was
You know what I'm
close.
saying? And then New England, Minnesota, and at Buffalo. So I think the Jets, like, you know, they need breaks, obviously, but this is the NFL. You know what I mean? I think the Jets can get to 6-11.
6-11. The four, the four I'm giving them before week 9 are still somewhat toss ups in the sense that Tennessee, Cleveland, Miami, and the Raiders are probably drafting top 7 next year.
Okay. Okay.
You sprinkle in like Atlanta could have a poor season. You sprinkle in the Jets as their own team. So I think they're playing 4 teams in the first 8 weeks that could
But
be
see,
drafted in the top 7 of the draft. So I think those are still toss ups. They're winnable, but I think they're toss ups. I
but
just
I
don't
also
see
think
Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, or New England as
I think they can beat Green
wins.
Bay. But I also think that late in the season they get Minnesota coming in week 17, depending on the weather. Even if it's not snowing per se and it's just simply cold, you're talking about a dome team, you know, coming in. You know, that could always go sideways, and at the very least, be a game that Minnesota have to wiggle out late. You know what I mean? So like, there's games on the table, you know, because I don't expect the Jets to literally go through another season with no interceptions or anything like that. I don't expect them to be not putting up at least, you know, 16 points every week.
So Sports Reports ordered best. Our Venn diagram is best case scenario 6-11, most likely scenario 5-12, worst case scenario 3-14. Because you figure you get
I can see that. I could
you
live
get
with
the
that.
I figure you get the Raiders, especially if they're starting
But I might
a
go
rookie
best
by
case
then.
7. I might
Best
go best
case
case 7.
7.
If you could sweep Miami, you could possibly
You got
get to 7.
okay. 7-10.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
in my
it is
mind,
NFL.
they can beat Tennessee, they can beat Cleveland, they can beat Miami at least once. They can beat the Raiders. They could beat the Cardinals, you know, and then you got to talk about NFL variants, right? Upsets happen every year. Miami beat Buffalo last year. You know, we keep talking about the Falcons beat, you know what I'm saying,
Buffalo, yes, yeah.
Buffalo
And
and
the
the
Rams.
Rams. So you take one of those games and you know what I mean? Like they got to clip somebody just off of chance. So, you know, I
But
don't know.
that's what I'm
We'll see.
saying. I think unfortunately the Tennessee, Cleveland, Miami, and the Vegas game could, as the season plays out, those could be the games where it's like maybe the Jets shouldn't have won that one, and they won a couple of those. Like I think I'm not sure. I'm not sure what their ceiling is because I just I don't see where they are.
You still are.
I don't see where they have an advantage other than like just them being an NFL team. I just don't see where like what position group really makes a difference for them in wins
Mike
and
with
losses.
The upset special. I think like also like that's where having a guy like Kenyon Sadiq, comes in, because I think of him, and I'm not trying to make a direct player comparison, but I think he's the kind of dude that is what people thought Kyle Pitts could be when he first came out of college. I think Kenyon Sadiq's that type of dude. And you know what I mean? And I think that Mason Taylor is another good tight end. So I think the Jets have more flexibility of how they can set up their offense formation wise.
But if he's more, if more likely if he's more like Kyle Pitts, it's going. Well, first of all, it's going to be tough for any rookie to beat NFL coverages because they just haven't seen it. He was running wide open in Oregon.
Yeah.
I don't know if he knows where to sit down and cover three, or if he realized cover four is for run defense. Yeah.
Well, that's where Frank Reich needs to be a little creative. Get some screens to him. You know what I mean? Get him out the backfield a couple of times a year. But
that's what I mean. You got a coach that's our age. He's older than us. Like, they don't get creative. They run left, run right. That's why they end up not fitting in. That's why guys like Brady end up being head coaches, because a lot of these older coaches, other than Vrabel, who has like a real I'm gonna use bravado, just size. I'm gonna use size, and we're gonna dominate the line of scrimmage. You can use that anywhere, but if you're not creative,
so let's end it on this.
All right,
let's end it on this.
We always talk about these teams that are gonna have like 6 wins with such ferocity. It's incredible. We do it every single year.
Give me a percentage that when we start the 2027 season, Aaron Glenn is still the Jets head coach.
0.
Well, damn.
0.
Okay.
Not because it's unfortunate. It's going to be, if the Bears do what they plan on doing, which is scoring the most points in NFL history, whoever their offensive coordinator is going to be hot for a job. If, let's say New Orleans just happens to win an NFC South and they get Tyler Shook looking like, whatever. I think so many teams that are going to, if Minnesota looks good, whoever their offensive play caller is going to be a head coach. I don't think the Jets are going to score a lot of points. I think Woody's going to be like, you know what? We need to get a guy in here that can score some points, because they're going to have the defense, just because you talked about the players that they bring in on defense. And I think they have a good defense. It's just that the defense cannot just keep going off the sideline, getting a glass of water, having a fart, and like punt ready. And now they got to get up and get ready to go back on the field again. You can tell, like, in these games when they just kind of realize that Justin Fields not moving the ball. It's only so much energy these guys can muster and then rebuild sitting on the sideline.
And I think that's the problem with the Jets. And not just a better quarterback, but he's a veteran as well. You know what I mean? So, like, he's been around the block. He's seen it. Now, he ain't the best quarterback by any means. You know what I mean? But I think that he's just that much of an upgrade over Justin
If they can
Fields
sustain some drives, then I think if they can sustain drives, give the defense an opportunity to actually rest. But the scheme is not different. They didn't really do anything to alter the scheme. They have the same running backs. They have the same, like, it's.
Well, that's players. Scheme, they couldn't do anything because they were handcuffed.
Yeah, I don't think Geno Smith is that much of an upgrade from Justin Fields.
Like, if I was making my own little Madden rankings or whatever, and I'm trying to be fair here, so I'm going to give Justin Fields a better grade than I think he should get. But if I made
68.
No, I was going to give him a 72. You know what I'm saying? If I give Justin Fields a 72, I would probably give Geno a 78 or 79.
Yeah, that's not that much of an upgrade on a scale of 1 to 0
Yes,
to
it
100.
is. Like
6
well,
points.
at least on NCAA it is.
Yeah, from
I don't play
72
Madden,
to
but I'm just
78.
saying on NCAA
Yeah,
it is.
like I'm just saying like that. Like that's what I mean. And like if Gino was known for being like this real dynamic playmaker, like the entirety of his career, he just been a really good quarterback, really stable.
I
But
would
I just
rather
think
have Geno. I would rather have Geno than like this stage of Russell Wilson or Jameis like the Giants had last year.
it's like the same way we probably thought about Russell Wilson. Like, oh, this guy's pretty solid. He doesn't. But when it came down to like, I need this guy to make plays, they just weren't there. Like the clock, it runs out. He's 35 years old. It runs out. Like you can't keep half rebuilding. Like
No, but
just
that's the thing.
break
Like
it down to the studs
but
and build it
I'm
back
not
up
I'm not telling
as a
Geno
team.
Brown. I mean, I keep calling. I don't know why I
Geno.
keep saying Geno Brown. I'm not telling Geno Smith to come in here and be Joe Burrow. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling him to come in here and be Sam Darnold.
But you probably thought Russ could be Sam Darnold.
No, I didn't. I knew Russ was done.
I just
You
know
know
there's a wall. There's a wall. There's a timeline for all of these guys. And I think at 35, when you've been just a pretty average, slightly above average quarterback, I just don't see you coming into an organization that's perennially just awful. Every single year they've been like a bad team.
Yeah, what's the same
I think
thing?
it's in the building. I think it's in the walls. I think it's just kind of permeating through the organization that they are not a winning organization. Like the kid that came out the game last year. Remember the clip that went viral? The kid was just like, he's like, I was born to this. I hate it. It sucks. We lose every single week. That kid's 14. He just got equipped to this losing, and it's like it's ingrained into how they play, and it's like Geno's not the answer.
No,
You'll
I
see.
mean, I don't know. He's not long term, but like I said,
I'm talking
like,
about even for this year.
You know,
it's in the building, man. It's in the paint of the walls in Florham Park. It's just not. They keep ignoring the real problem. Is just tear it down and start over. They keep trying to put band-aids on shotgun wounds. Just tear it down and start over. You're going to be last in the division anyway.
All right, well, let's get to these mammals that people keep calling fish for some reason. It's a new era down in South Beach. You know, Tua turned the ball over is in Atlanta now. So
doing it over there.
Yeah, doing it over there. You know, new head coach, Mike McDaniels, the offensive coordinator out in L.A. now, and now we bring in Jeff Hafley from the Green Bay Packers. Prior to that, he was the head coach at Boston College, where he accumulated a 22-26 record, did not have a better record than 7-6. So some people might say he fell up, you know.
DEI.
You know what I'm saying? And then, now this is where it gets interesting for me. And this is only through the mind of a Washington fan, right? So they bring in Malik Willis, who was in Green Bay with him. Did a admirable job last year, for the Jets got 3 first-rounders, if I remember correctly. Again.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be great for them after they get another one. That'd be great.
So Malik Willis, he had a lot of hype near, coming out of college. It didn't work out in Tennessee. He ended up in Green Bay, had a decent year last year. But then as I was going through this, I said, who does a guy like Jeff Hafley bring in as offensive coordinator? He brought in Bobby Slowick. And I said, they trying to turn Malik Willis into RG3. I don't think that's going to work out for anybody. I don't think that's going to work out for anybody. So I think, Mr. Logical, to your point, I think Miami could look like the Jets of last year.
I just looked at my notes. It doesn't look good.
And they gave him 3 years, $67.5 million too. Oh, you think so? Quinn Ewers, huh? That's even worse. Like if Quinn Ewers is the starter, you might as well just say we're forfeiting. Said just give us Arch now.
Here we go. Here we go. Like, real quick and I'll let you go. Miami gets the number 1 pick. They draft Arch. Quinn Ewers is a backup to Arch in Miami.
Yeah. He is not signed, Riz.
I'd be pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Miami. But yeah, so Jeff Hafley, he brought in Sean Duggan as the defensive coordinator, who's kind of followed him around throughout his career, through Boston College and everything. So first round, right? They went and got Caden Proctor. Maybe he's the new Penei Sewell, because I think, we've seen Bama run plays for him at the goal line, even catch a screen or two. So, that's fun. But
I need you to block.
What is it? Yeah, I need you to be an offensive lineman, not a toy right now. Now, Achane ran for 1350 last year. They got Jalen Wright and Ollie Gordon behind him. But one of my problems with the Dolphins over the last, call it 3 years, has been how ineffective they are on fourth down, fourth and short in particular. So I don't know if there's anything that shows or demonstrates that they fixed that. Bobby Schlowick, I do like him just because he was on the Washington staff, with Shanahan and all these guys. So he has that background. But he was basically out of the league, during the last go round. He was the offensive coordinator at Houston. And, I just don't know. I don't know if this is an example of Hafley being a college coach. We should find out that difference between college and the NFL through this experiment. But the cheetah is gone. Jalen Waddle's gone. He's up in Colorado these days. They do have Chris Bell. I like Chris Bell a lot, but he's coming off an ACL. He's a wide receiver out of Louisville who would have been a first rounder without that injury, but he went in the third round. They have Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert, and they got Malik Washington, who's quick but shorter than me. So I liked him in the draft a couple of years ago as that kind of gadget guy. So I guess he plays that Tyreek Hill kind of role for the time being. We'll see how that looks, but you just don't got the quarterback to do it. So
the quarterback's too small. The wide receivers are too small. The running back is too small. The head coach should be a college defensive coordinator right now, not an NFL head coach. They are not built properly. They're run by a guy who literally got suspended for a year for collusion and trying to break the rules. It's not the Miami Hurricanes are a better run organization than the Miami Dolphins. They gave Tua all that money when they shouldn't have given him that money. We all knew it. We all talked about it. We can't give him that money. They gave him that money, and they still paying him. Yeah. They will have the worst record in the league.
Well, I was going to bring up a college, actually, and I was going to say if this was college football, we would be talking about their lack of returning production. Saying outside of Achane, a lot of their core is gone. They don't even have Kelsey Plum's ex anymore. You know what I mean? So, so just about everybody's gone. So, but on defense, I mentioned this earlier, they do have players. They have Chop Robinson. I like Kenneth Grant. Jordan Phillips, we'll see. He needs to be molded a little bit, but there's talent there. I like Chris Johnson, who they drafted out of San Diego State at corner. Dante Trader had a pretty good rookie year last year. So, I think that Miami has.
Hold on real quick. This is why I'm sick of the internet. So, Chris Johnson, number 3 cornerback. Look at the picture they used. That's Chris Johnson, the running back.
That's not an official site, is it? That's just somebody playing around?
No, it's covers.com. It was the second option on Google when I was looking for rosters.
Oh, not covers, man. Not covers. Say it ain't so.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for Miami, man. I don't think you and I are gonna go back Jordan and forth Brooks on the wins.
I like Kyle Lewis, out of Pitt, rookie. I like Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker out of Texas Tech. So Miami has talent, and of course they still got our guy with my second favorite name, Storm Duck. The only name that is better than that is Ephesians Prylock over in San Francisco.
What
But
about the coldest? The guy, I think he went to Oregon.
no, I don't like that name.
I love that name.
I don't like that.
He got a air conditioning NIL deal.
Yeah, salute, but I don't like that name. No, Miami's it's gonna be tough for them. Tough sledding because this is Malik Willis's first time, I guess, really being trusted to be the man. So there has to be some kind of adjustment there when defenses are planning for you now versus you being able to come in because Jordan Love's hurt and they didn't prepare for you. So there's going to be something there. Achan is obviously going to face all the boxes. He might face a 10-man box sometimes. You know what I mean?
Single high safety.
Yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? And just just watch Malik Washington and make sure he don't run by you. The defense should be improved somewhat just based on talent, but I still think not good enough to really change the fortunes that I think we have for them. So let's
Time
get
of
right to it.
possession average is going to be about. I mean, they might get scored. I won't say they get scored on quickly because of the NFL, but I can't imagine them averaging more than like 24, 25 minutes time of possession with this offense.
See, you would like to pick them over the Raiders just because of the state of the Raiders, but road game, even though it's not really a road game, you still got to travel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, then you get San Francisco the week after that. Like, I'm looking at 0-5 here.
That's a reasonable start.
You know what I mean? And then
they get the bye week.
The game at the Jets, you know what I'm saying? Then they get New England and Detroit. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe you're looking at Indianapolis. But
if Indianapolis has a healthy Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor, then at least at a minimum they can control the clock and they can get some action off of that. They got the guy Warren or the tight end out of Penn State. So I think
Tyler Warren,
yeah. So they like Indy has weapons and they have players that you can call on and rely on. I'm like, what player you call in 3rd and 7 if you're Miami, you're Jeff Hafley, you look at the offense coordinator, like, who's your wide receiver target? Are you doing a screen to Achan again for the 4th time that game?
The NFL didn't do their job because we definitely deserve Dolphins Falcons this year, just for storyline purposes.
It would have been 11 people in the stands.
But then look at this though. Even after the Colts though, at Buffalo, you think that they get the Jets at home, then they go to Mile High, Chicago, go to Lambeau, Chargers, Bills. Dude, they might win 2-3 games.
They could realistically go 0-17, and it wouldn't surprise me. Like I said, you have a little bit more faith in the Jets. Like I said, I think the Jets versus Miami has, all right, Geno can do something. I know Malik Willis can make plays with his legs, but can you do that when the defense knows you have no other option? Because when he did it against the Ravens in that one game where he scored 2 rushing touchdowns, they had other guys running routes that the Ravens had to pay attention to. They needed Kyle Hamilton over the top. They needed Marlon Humphrey to pay attention to Christian Watson. They needed guys to really focus on, and he was able to, in a man coverage scheme, 2-high safety, get on the edge and scramble. I don't know if you have to do that with him in Miami.
Crazy? What's crazy is the first preseason game they played against the Commanders. I was about to flip shit because Malik Willis came out and led a 93-yard drive on the first possession of the preseason. They've scored 3 points since then.
And it's just preseason, so
it's just
if
preseason,
you're the Commanders,
but still.
You're working in guys, you're getting guys in new positions, and I understand, you put a little credence in the preseason, but not completely. You want to get a good drive. You want to see something.
Like if I'm the Dolphins, I think with a guy like Malik Willis, it behooves you to try to take advantage of preseason. I think that, to your point about the Jets and how things permeate through the building, I think you try during preseason. You know, like especially if you're Aaron Glenn, like I think you just, because you don't think he's going to be there next year, and a lot of people didn't think he would be there going into this year. So I think that preseason is that baseline of guys. We're going to hit the ground running. Like, I ain't saying you playing your starters the whole game or anything like that, but there's a certain intensity or a certain, you're going to come out and we're going to start. Preseason is going to be our battlefield, you know, type attitude. You know what I mean? I imagine Atlanta was sort of the same way with Tua. Like, hey, you're going to come out here.
But Tua
he just doesn't have it.
In practice.
Right.
He can't stand in the pocket in practice where he's not allowed to get touched. He looks terrible in the pocket in practice. So that's going to translate to the field. Miami, unfortunately.
Well, it sounds like we're going to get Mikey.
Listen, Miami, and Michael Penix is, he's coming off an injury. Granted, it was a while ago, but like I said, I don't know how long it takes to recover from knee surgery, especially when you're doing the job that these guys are doing.
Well, not only that, but the problem is that, this ain't the first. You know what I'm saying? He had these injuries in college in his legs. And, you know what I mean? Like, it was a constant thing that you had to deal with. That's why he stayed in college so long.
I mean, if they rebuilt the ligaments properly and he healed properly and it works out, I mean, God bless him. I hope it works out. But as far as Tua's old team, this could be one of those things where I don't know what Jeff Hafley's contract is looking like, but it might be a scenario where he's fired and they're paying him the rest of this to stay home.
Well, I
watched some of the preseason. I was like, this doesn't even look like NFL play calls. Like they were calling. They had a backup quarterback in. They were in the end zone. They called 2 passes to the flat where the guy caught the ball at the goal line. 2 plays, but just run it up the middle and punt. Like, why you got this third string guy in here trying to throw? He almost threw him into a safety. Like, who's calling that play? Like, you're not working on, like, that's not a play you would call in a regular season. You're not calling a flat pass in the third quarter, week 6, from the end zone. 5-step drop. Like, come on. It's just a terrible design for a play. And then barely getting the ball out. Like, you're not calling that. So maybe you practice it because it's preseason, but that shouldn't be something that you put on tape.
Yeah.
You should be putting real tangible plays on tape, considering that you are basically probably a shoo-in for the number 1 pick right now.
I mean, he definitely improved Green Bay's defense. And I think the NFL gets caught up and I mean college does too, but I think you get caught up in that whole my next coach has to be the opposite side of the ball as my current coach. Like, we had Mike McDaniel, who was supposed to be the run game guy, which he was, and we're gonna have a creative offense, which they did at times. Now we got to shore up the defense, and I think like teams just got to hire the best coach. But I got New England at 11-6. I got Buffalo at 10-7. I got the Jets at 6-11, and then I got Miami at 3-14.
Okay, I got 12-5 for Buffalo. I got Miami just another Grace of Buddha 1-16, which is unlikely. I think it's probably way worse. I got 11-6, 12-5 for New England. It's a toss up between the Buffalo Jets. Like you said, we went back and forth, but I'm going best case scenario 5-12. And like I said, 4 of those games, Cleveland might actually still be a good team. We know their defense is stacked. We know for what people don't like about Deshaun Watson, he still it's a big mobile quarterback, big arm. I don't know if his head's in it. He just doesn't seem like that press conference. He just didn't seem like he was. I think he's like fed up, but in the same sense, is like, yo, they guarantee me $228 million.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
getting
yeah,
this
they're not
check.
gonna take that dead money.
Yeah. So I think he's just there. And I think, if he gets it going, I think he can throw, Cleveland to a couple of wins, which one of them being against the Jets. So yeah, it's going to be a tough stretch. AFC East is a 2-horse race, and it's up to the guys who are perennially picked to be in a Super Bowl, and then the team that historically uh, has Super Bowl
I don't want them if I'm
pedigree.
Miami.
They're not going to trace because they just paid
I
Malik
don't want
Willis.
them if I'm
Like
Miami.
if I'm Shador Sanders, oh no, I'm not high on Cleveland. No. I said the game against the Jets. That game, and then maybe a couple
1
more.
week only.
Yeah, it's not like I don't like I said. I think because like Colin, I'll let you go. Colin Cowherd said something the other day on one of his clips I was watching. He was like, it's very hard for NFL teams to be bad every year. He's like, I don't feel bad for them when they are. He's like, you get everything you need when you are the bad team in the NFL. You either get an opportunity to cut a lot of players and save on salary cap. You get a high draft pick. You get an opportunity to get the next young hot coach. Like you get all these opportunities to turn your team around. And when you don't, it's your own fault. Cleveland has put themselves, as soon as they traded Baker Mayfield and went on and got Deshaun Watson, it was like, yo, you have set your franchise back at this point. We're looking at like 4 seasons, 5. We're going into season 5, probably, of them just kind of like the lingerings of that trade, like not shoring up Baker before the season started, going after Watson. He missed a couple of seasons, I believe, with suspension and injury. Then you draft 2 more quarterbacks, knowing you had a guy that still was owed like $160 million. Like those decisions are why your team is where they are. And I think that's happening with Miami. I think this was happening with the Jets. I think the Raiders, like I said, keep firing coaches. Hopefully they should have moved off of Max Crosby. Just maximize your situations. Like you can't have this.
Well, they tried. Remember,
motley crew. Well, try it again. Like just get something else, and
I'm sure
so
they'll
you can
look into
really
it
start
mid-season.
over. Yeah,
I'm sure they'll look into it mid-season. But before we get out of here, no, this ain't about me. This is for you. How are we feeling about these guys going back to college?
I just saw something. I figured you were going to bring it up. I hate it. I hate it on so many. I hate it on so many levels. I hate it personally as a parent of a kid that's pursuing his dream of playing college football. I hate it as a fan of sports. I hate it as a person who's a fan of logic and rational thought. You can easily institute a rule that says if you went to an NFL roster and signed some form of a contract, because you got to be out there medically clear, like you signed something with an NFL team, even to be on the practice squad, play a preseason, you are ineligible to come back to college at least that year. Like you can't go from Cleveland's training camp down to Baton Rouge. Yeah, I saw something that said the SEC blocked it.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten was talking about it too.
All you gotta do is go to a judge and say they're denying me my opportunity to work. Labor laws, like the way these things are written, like they can be exploited if you're a good enough lawyer. So I doubt they'll do that. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But like I said, I have a 17-year-old son who has a 17-year-old high school football player's body. He shouldn't be competing with my 24-year-old son for a spot to play middle linebacker at Monmouth University down here in West Long Branch, New Jersey. Like one dude should have been done with school, and the other guy should be able to walk into school. If I'm a tight end that Lane Kiffin recruited all this time, told me I was going to be the guy, I've been in the school since January. I've been in the gym every single week, drinking the protein powder, doing all this work, just for you to go get a guy that was at your other school that went to an NFL team that's coming back. Like, come on, like just that on that just that macro level was like, what are we talking about? So I hope all these conferences block it, and I hope the judges follow suit. And I hope these guys like, listen, your opportunity to be a high school student runs out. You can't be like, man, I really want to get this high school basketball dream popping. I'm gonna go back and reclass as a 20-year-old, be a senior. No, that ship has sailed. That is fine. Life goes on. The pages of the calendar will turn. Go to college. Do your best, get to the best position you can be in, and that clock also expires. You get your opportunity in the NFL. If it doesn't work out, then you do the other part of your life. It doesn't diminish what you've done in your life. You don't have to try to reclaim this thing. There's other things for you to do. If you're 26, 27, you should not be practicing and working out in the locker room with 19-year-olds. You're too damn old.
Taught at the BYU. So I think that for me,
do your mission after you graduate.
It's just
that's what I would tell them.
It was just bad timing, because I get the premise of why the judge did what they did, just from the standpoint of every other class gets this extra year except for you. I can understand that on a basic level. You know what I mean? The problem is that shit happened after the NFL draft. You know what I'm saying? Like in the middle of training camp, all that kind of stuff like that. That's where it's screwed because these guys were out of eligibility. So naturally they tried to make the NFL. But I also think that, and I don't want to disparage them because they are kids still in compared to me.
They're not, man.
Compared to me, they're kids. You know what I mean? But what kind of loser are you? You know what I mean? If you are in an NFL preseason game trying to make a roster, whatever the case may be, and you're like, I'm just going to go back to Ole Miss. You know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't even want to. You already got NIL.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, so you made money. It's not as if you're going back. You're going to get more money if you go back. But a guy like Thomas Castellanos, right? I'm sorry, son. Football just might not be your future. You know what I mean? From the standpoint of you're like a 5'10" quarterback that has no quarterback IQ. Going to Texas Tech ain't going to do nothing for you. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you're going to have a higher NFL stock by being older.
I don't think the NFL stock is the piece. I think it's just a matter. Like if you were in college, I think there should be a cap. I don't think Congress should have anything to do with it. I think the NCAA and people should be able to sit down who are smart and understand, like, hey, college sports should go from you graduated. If you graduated in 2020 and you are still walking around
major,
and you still walk around a college campus and you're not doing a master's degree, but you're still out there taking ballroom dance and playing football, then
I think Mike,
you got to shut it.
But I think the point, Mike, is that
I blame the coaches too. I blame the coaches for doing it.
And I'm just going back to a very rudimentary place, right?
Oh, great word choice.
So college sports, and I'm not doing the amateur thing, but it's supposed to be competition. It's supposed to be, hey, we graduated from high school, we're going up a level now, so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So now, yes, the schools are making money off of these players. You know what I'm saying? We've already addressed that and everything. But yes, the point is that you have a window of opportunity to play college football. Once that window is over, you just got to go on with your life. You know what I'm saying?
Like
regardless.
It's okay for it to be over.
They do. They do. You're right about that, actually.
Yeah. Like I said, my son's youth football league, they have the 165 pounders are like the 8th graders. A lot of high schools in this area have a freshman football program. But if your high school doesn't have a freshman football program, you can play in the rec league. So you're 13 and 14. And there was a couple of cities that didn't have a freshman program, and they would have these kids playing, in this 13-14 league. But I'm like, my son got to his freshman year in high school. Practice was at 2:30. He was at practice. He was on the bus. He was back home by 5:30. This youth practice league started at 6:00. Like, do you really want to go to high school all day long and then come back and be at practice with 6-year-olds and 14-year-olds running laps at 6:00 at night when you're in high school? Just play JV. Like, you don't have to dominate to be productive at a sport. Like, you have to grow. Like, you have to be willing to take it on the chin that
and I think
this guy ahead of me might be better than me. I got to beat him out. But now, like, the college coaches aren't even giving guys an opportunity. As a freshman, 17, 18, you should be able to walk on campus and look across and see a 21-year-old who's been there for 2 or 3 years
I was gonna say
and compete with him
similar
versus a 24-year-old who's like, come on. Like,
I look at it from the standpoint of, like, I look at a guy like Mike Norvell, right, who lives through the transfer portal, and a guy like Prime who did the same thing, but now, like, it sounds like for next year's class, Colorado has signed, or at least, contacted more high schoolers than they had at any point throughout his tenure. So the other part of that is that you're eliminating that, where these guys are coming in. And if I'm the NFL, I'm really upset about this because, like, it's a development thing too, because now that high school pipeline being reduced in that way, players aren't developing. So my league is
they're not getting a chance to. Yeah, they're not getting a chance to.
Right, and I'm not getting so now when these guys get to a lot of these guys get to the NFL, they're going to be learning all over again because teams were just like,
25.
Oh, let's get this guy out of here. Like, I need this linebacker that played at Memphis last year to come help us win the SEC championship or whatever the case may be, because either you don't believe in your ability to coach, or as Mike Tomlin would say, you don't want to coach. So
you don't run the coaching.
So from that standpoint, that's where I have a problem with it on the basic level of like you're gonna, like, we saw this with the one and done. You know what I mean? Where, like, yeah, there were players coming out. It was awesome. You got your Kobe's, you got your KG's, but there was also your Benders and your Corleone Youngs and people like that as well. So
Kwame
then
Browns.
over the course of time, you made that rule where it was like, hey, go to college for a year and come into the league. And they still don't know how to play basketball. So then we say, oh, the NBA sucks. I wonder why. So that's where, with the NFL, that's the path I can see it going down, is that you're cutting off that high school track to
and
where
you're drafting 24-year-olds that are going to turn 25, and by the time you have to give them their first big contract extension, they're 28 and a half.
And you got to, and then
I got to give you 4 years. You're going to be 32 at the end of your first big contract. You're going to be 32 years old. And I got to give you $200 million.
Potentially, then you got a receiver potentially who's a junior that is on his third school and hasn't even played, but maybe 25% of possible snaps. You know what I mean? So now you're messing up the quality of the college football too. So, like, I don't know. It's bullshit. Like, long story short, it's bullshit.
I'm not saying it should go back to, like, making them sit out a year and transfer, but it should be like, there's a line in it saying 23 years old when the season starts. If you're 24 when the season starts, then you're ineligible. No waivers. Yeah. 23 when your last season of football starts. That's the oldest you can be.
And I think that where we are at this point,
technically LeBron can go to college.
Technically, where we are at this point is hopefully the rest of the conferences follow suit. Don't allow this. I mean, like, because you're talking about all that. Like, we're what, 4 days away from the season?
Like I said, you got a guy that's your tight end coach recruited for all these months. You signed off on it. He went to school. He's enrolled in the program. He's expecting to show up and play. And you pull a guy off the Cleveland waive list. Like, come on. Like, and on top of that, it's like you get waived by an NFL team. You should be expected to get picked up by another NFL team. you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm going back to college once I clear his waiver, because that tells NFL owners, like, oh, you don't even want to be in the league.
You don't want LeBron to go back to college and Caden Boozer hit a 3, and we talking about Caden Boozer had to save LeBron's legacy.
Now he gonna go to Arizona with Bryce.
Oh man, but anyway.
that'd be a great commercial. If I'm Nike, if you do that, that's our idea. We brought that up. So if you do a Nike commercial,
I'm not co-signing
with
none of that.
LeBron, yo, that should be a dope. It'd be a dope commercial.
No, just get that man out of my life. I'm not co-signing nothing that has to do with this dude. Anyway, and IG. I am not a LeBron fan. Get out your feelings. We will be back on Friday with the NFC North. Who wins the North? Mike says the Cleveland Browns. What will I and Mr. Logical say? Join us and find out. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the love. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. Everywhere you get your podcast, just like Say Less, Say More. Kevin Garnett can also play in college. So hey,
that'd be a great Nike commercial.
Y'all making me itch now.
Just for the comedic sense, it would be just a dope commercial to release the shoe.
Oh, Lord have mercy. We are the world. We are the children. See you on Friday. Sports Reports is ordered. Out.
Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down.